At the 2026 Winter Olympics, Swedish freestyle skier Elis Lundholm became the first openly transgender competitor at any Winter Games, prompting questions about how organizations like the IOC define man and woman, and why these definitions matter for fairness in competition. On February 10, 2026, Lundholm competed in the women's ski moguls qualification at Milano Cortina. Assigned female at birth and identifying as male, 23-year-old Lundholm finished 29th out of 30, needing a stronger second run to advance. This made the Swedish the only openly transgender athlete at these games, participating in women's moguls and dual moguls under current rules. Lundholm, born July 10, 2002, and assigned female at birth, has identified as a transgender man for several years. Lundholm's FIS profile categorizes him as female for competition. She debuted in the World Cup in 2024, placing 18th, and won 4 Swedish championship medals, according to Swedish Federation records. Lundholm's participation, despite being the first one in winter sports, isn't the first one in the Olympics. It rather fits into a longer history of transgenderism in the Olympics. Debates began in the 1930s with cases like Czech runner Zdeněk Koubek, who competed in women's events at the 1934 Women's World Games before transitioning to live as a man. Similarly, British intersex discus and javelin athlete Mark Weston transitioned in 1936. American discus, shot put, and sprint athlete Helen Stevens faced scrutiny at the 1936 Berlin Olympics and had to go through a sex test to prove she was, in fact, a female. The IOC introduced sex verification in 1948 and chromosome testing in 1968. The 2003 Stockholm Consensus, issued by the IOC Medical Commission, was one of the earliest formal international policies addressing transgender athletes in elite sports. It required surgical sex reassignment, including gonadectomy, and ongoing hormone therapy for transgender women to compete in the female category. Updates in 2015 removed surgery needs. Visibility of trans athletes increased in 2021 Tokyo, with the first trans woman competitor in Laurel Hubbard, originally born as Gavin Hubbard, was the first trans woman competitor in an individual event. And Quinn, whose name was originally Rebecca Quinn, before she began identifying as non-binary and transgender and dropped the first name. Born male, William Thomas, who then adopted the name Leah Thomas, became the first openly transgender athlete to win an NCAA Division I national championship in the women's 500-yard freestyle in 2022, sparking intense debates on fairness and inclusion that influenced international policy discussions. Iman Khalif, born and raised female, was found to have a natural biological condition called DSD, difference of sexual development, won gold in the women's welterweight division amid questions about her biological sex due to prior disqualifications for failing gender tests, revealing XY chromosomes and elevated testosterone, linked to disorders of sex development. She was eventually cleared by the IOC based on her passport and competitive history, though the case fueled ongoing scrutiny of verification protocols. U.S. soccer player Megan Rapinoe stated in a 2021 op-ed for The Washington Post, "These bills are some of the most intense political assaults on LGBTQ people in recent years. Sports have become another avenue to attack the rights of trans people." Tennis legend and Women's Sports Foundation founder Billie Jean King released an official statement in 2020 saying, "I'm proud to support all transgender athletes who simply want the access and opportunity to compete in the sport they love." American swimmer Brooke Ford said in a statement back in 2022, "I believe that treating people with respect and dignity is more important than any trophy or record will ever be, which is why I will not have a problem racing against Leah at NCAAs this year." This was in the context of trans swimmer Leah Thomas's polemic. How do you feel with these athletes' opinion? Do you agree? But why does the IOC approach gender this way? The International Olympic Committee's 2021 Framework on Fairness, Inclusion, and Non-Discrimination decentralizes transgender eligibility to individual international sports federations, meaning they don't act as a central ruling committee in the world. The framework maintains separate men's and women's categories and is more focused on guaranteeing there is no unfairness in the treatment of athletes. In the IOC framework, we find that the separation between men's and women's categories is intended to ensure fair and safe competition. An interesting thing within the framework is that the IOC does not explicitly define man or woman, nor by gender. Instead, the committee lets international federations set their own criteria. Regarding Lundholm, the IOC has stated to Reuters that Elis Lundholm competes in the female category, which is aligned with the sex of this athlete. The organization that governs Lundholm's discipline is the FIS, the International Ski and Snowboard Federation. Taking a deeper look into the criteria used by the federation, we can find that it does not use a single, publicly detailed universal definition of man or woman based on gender identity alone. Instead, eligibility for men's and women's categories in FIS events, including freestyle skiing, is primarily aligned with an athlete's registered sex in the federation system, which typically corresponds to sex assigned at birth. Multiple reports describe FIS policy as permitting transgender men, assigned female at birth, in women's categories if they remain registered as female and do not use testosterone, which would be prohibited/doping in women's events. In September 2025, FIS approved a new gene testing policy for gender eligibility in women's events, focused on the presence or absence of the SRY gene, the sex-determining gene on the Y chromosome. FIS stated, "The eligibility conditions laid out in the policy are grounded on the presence or absence of the so-called SRY gene, the sex-determining gene present on humans' Y chromosome. Only SRY-negative competitors may compete in women's competitions going forward." If the IOC's upcoming policy, as indicated by Reuters and ESPN, becomes more restrictive, what might it mean for transgender athletes? In the US, the Olympic Committee banned transgender women from women's sports per an executive order, according to Axios. And a broader question persists. How valid should physiological, psychiatric, and sociological factors be for Olympic rules? Transgender ideologies and causes deserve a keen study, and we have exactly just that for you. You can discover the true origins and some of the most important implications of these tensions in Genderless Generation, a Big Picture Originals production. Comment below, like if this clarified the debates, and subscribe for more neutral investigations into the issues defining modern sports. And if you want to know more about transgenderism and its political and cultural implications, watch Genderless Generation, a Big Picture Originals production, where we explore how cultural and political forces molded young people to be a genderless generation, no matter how absurd it may seem. Scan the QR code or click the link in the description, become a member and unlock your access to all Big Picture Originals exclusive content.